She's at home now. And so she's still with enough. This is not so much of an auntie at the end of the day. But anyway, we're in for a real treat because we have two great ladies who are going to be doing service today. The first lady is Reverend Alice Nagy. And the next one is Reverend Melissa Shafer. Okay, so that's it, Melissa Shafer. So enjoy everything today.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad to see you here. I hope you can get something out of today's service. It's going to be a little different. And that's really all I have to say. I'll let Alice take over from here. Just for a moment.
Good morning. I ask you to please pray with me, with your mind and in your heart. Dear Heavenly Father, our most gracious and merciful Lord of all, we praise you and give you glory. We give thanks for all the blessings which you bestow upon us each moment of our lives as we travel this earth which you have given to us. We thank you for your presence within all of us. Please guide our hearts and our minds to be the channel of your light and the builders of your intentions, that we may manifest the highest in our physical lives. We ask for your special blessings, that those who are ill be healed, that those who are suffering find peace, that those involved in wars find peace and safety, that the leaders of our countries, of our world, be filled with wisdom. May we all become one in your love and light, that we may know each other, understand each other, forgive each other, as you know us, understand us, and forgive us. Lord, hear our prayers, and we give thanks. Amen. And our first hymn will be number 68. Pass it on.
To all the Buddhas who traverse 3 times, to the teaching and to the spiritual community, I bow down with emanations of my body, equal to the number of atoms in a Buddha field. Just as the bodhisattvas, such as Manjushri, make offerings to the conquerors, so I make offers to you, thus gone ones, you, the protectors, and your offspring. In this beginningless cyclic existence, in this life, or in others, compelled by the errors of ignorance, I needlessly engaged in misdeeds. I urged others to commit wrongdoings and rejoiced in others' bad actions as well. Having understood my faults, I confess them to the protectors from my heart. I rejoice with pleasure in actions helpful to beings and in oceans of virtue, which increase the altruistic aspiration to bring happiness to all. I join my palms, requesting the Buddhas of all the directions, please light the lamps of the teachings for beings who suffer in dark confusion. I pray with joined palms. To the Buddhas who wish for final nirvana, please stay for innumerable eons. Do not leave beings in this blindness. I have done all these in this way and accumulated virtue. May it remove all the miseries of all sentient beings. Please join in the Lord's Prayer. Whatever you're holding on to, keep holding on to it. Okay, our reading for today is a little different because you're going to help me do the reading, but before we do the reading, I want to give you a little background. handouts in your bulletin, and they're mostly for your reference, but we're going to look at a few bits and pieces of them. And we're going to be working with the ritual for adopting the spirit of enlightenment. And the words that we're going to be using are the last grouping, but the words that were used in the teachings when I went to see the Dalai Lama a couple weeks ago are the first set of words. Well, I'm not a big one for ritual, as some of you may know. I have discovered that there's comfort in ritual. It helps to bring you back to center when you're scattered. When you're out of sorts, having a ritual that brings you into balance and brings you to center helps you to focus and helps you to connect. And it also helps when you're in a group to bring the group together into a single focus, so that the group is one. And that's what I experienced the day that we did this with the Dalai Lama teachings that were at Stable Arena a couple weeks ago. So you'll look at the handout and you see the first thing is the preparation for a ritual. Just like any other ritual, there's certain things you do to set the tone and get your space ready. In Buddhism, they perform the special practice of going for refuge. In a nutshell, and from their perspective, you're going for refuge to the three jewels. The Dalai Lama was careful to point out, he even corrected the translator during the teachings, that you go to refuge with your source of refuge. So while in Buddhism there is a set source of refuge, they go to refuge for the three jewels, you have your own source of refuge. Just a little background, the three jewels are the Buddha, who is the teacher. So you're going for refuge in your teacher. The Buddha is supreme among two-legged, and the word actually means cleanse, blossom, flourish, or body. And there's two understandings of the Buddha. One is that he achieved nirvana and he ceased to exist. But the Dalai Lama said that this doesn't make sense to him, that distorted thoughts end, but your mental capacity and what's left doesn't end. Energy and knowing are inseparable and they keep existing. The second jewel is the Dharma, that's the teachings. And that means natural law or reality. And it can actually be compared to the Christian Logos. It's the ultimate truth and ultimate and transcendent truth. Others regard the Dharma just as a set of teachings that the Buddha left with them, a set of 84,000 different teachings. And the third source of refuge is the Sangha, which is the community, and that's where you are today, in your community. It's a gathering of people who aspire to goodness in one group. So the first would be going for refuge. And keep in mind that for some of us, you're choosing your own source of refuge, like God, Jesus Christ, whoever you go to. The teachings can be any holy book, any book that you hold sacred, any source of wisdom that speaks to you, and the community is where you are. And it's interesting that it all kind of works in a circle, because they say in order to achieve nirvana, you have to achieve Buddhahood. In order to achieve Buddhahood, you first have to achieve the community and get all of you together. And then you do that through the teachings. And once it happens, it's a circle, because all of them become one. The community and the Buddha and the teachings are in one vehicle, which is you. The second thing that's done is amassing a collection of merit, and that's where you offer gratitude to your teacher, to the being in whom you take refuge. And when you do this in private, you can offer anything. When we did this at the teachings, I found myself offering a stream. And it can be anything, because we're part of everything. Everything is part of us. So technically, anything that you want to offer in gratitude, you can offer, as long as you're offering it from your heart. And the last thing is purifying your attitude. You feel love in your heart, and you let it grow, and you feel compassion for all beings. And if you can't bring it into yourself to feel compassion compassion for beings, all beings, then call into mind those that you can feel compassion for. And just let that compassion flow, and let that be enough for now. I think it's important here, too, to talk about the word bodhisattva, because a bodhisattva is one who has the compassion and determination to help all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. In Mahayana Buddhism, that means that you have to be willing to forego your own Buddhahood and nirvana in order to help all beings to be on that same plane, to be in that same place. It's like the Bodhisattva saying, if I know how to swim, and even one other being doesn't know how to swim, then it's right that I stay here until everyone knows how to swim so that they don't drown. Or you can compare it to Archangel Michael saying that I will remain until the last soul has returned home. So the ritual for adopting the spirit of enlightenment is an expression of the vow to become a bodhisattva and to awaken as if from a dream into the true nature of reality. Well, like I said, we're not going to use the exact words that we used at the teachings. I did want to point out they talk about the 10 directions in the original text, and there are so many things that come together that are the same things that we teach here, like the 10 directions, because the 10 directions are the points of the compass and above and below, just as we pull into balance all of the directions and above and below. So, and then at the end of the ritual, time is taken for the master to impart wisdom to the student. So I'd like you to work with me and start by going for refuge, and that's just call in your teachers. You can call in the Buddhists, you can imagine Buddhists and Bodhisattvas surrounding you, you can call in Jesus Christ, you can call in the Holy Spirit, wherever you go for refuge. Imagine yourself surrounded by the holy books, the sacred texts, the places where you gather wisdom. And give thanks for those teachings, and give thanks to the holy ones who have joined you, and offer them a gift, whatever comes from your heart. And now, using the last set of words in the bulletin, on the inset, the last one's in the middle. It starts with the wish to free all beings. I'd like you to join me in saying that 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, until the attainment of full enlightenment. Enthused by compassion and wisdom, today, in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, and as long as sentient beings remain, may I too abide to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, until the attainment of full enlightenment. Enthused by compassion and wisdom, today, in Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, as long as space endures, and as long as sentient beings remain, may I too abide to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, until the attainment of full enlightenment. Enthused by compassion and wisdom, today, in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, as long as space endures, and as long as sentient beings remain, may I too abide to dispel the miseries of the world. Just take a moment to hear the response from your teacher. start. So I'm hoping that this all unfolds as it needs to. There's really no beginning and there's no end, and that's probably why Buddhism has no creation theory. The Buddha described a creation theory as trying to find the beginning point of a circle. And actually, much of the teachings of Buddhism unfold the same way as the teachings in our metaphysical community unfold. Each question causes another question, and it seems sometimes that the path is completely irrational. And yet, when you look at it from another perspective, it makes perfect sense. In the end, when the questions and answers get too intense and too tiring, sometimes the Dalai Lama suggested we have to be like the old man with no teeth, trying to gnaw a piece of meat. Eventually, you just have to quit chewing and swallow. During the teachings, I was often struck by the humor and the wisdom of the man we call the Dalai Lama. He found a way to present the most important topics in a way that everyone could understand them. A lot of the teachings were very mental, really heavy. It was a lot of mental work. I left there pretty tired most of the time, but when he spoke English without the use of the translator, he was very clear and able to get the points across because they were the points that he felt most passionate about. Other times it kind of felt like you needed to have a PhD because the language was very academic. One of the most important things he said was in the first couple minutes, he said that if you find the teaching useful, then take it and use it. And if you don't find it useful, then forget it. And that's what I'm asking you guys to do today. If you find something that I share useful, by all means use it. There's a lot of things that really rang true to me, that spoke to me, and there were other things I just kind of shook myself and said, nah, I'm not going there. One of the biggest messages was something that fits in right into our creed. He said that since he's a logician, he can see the value in all traditions, and that the division between the traditions is not good. He asks that all people make more contacts with people in other traditions and other religions. And he explained that on this planet there are many different traditions. They all came into being at different times, and they were all right for the people at the time they came into being, and that all of the traditions serve humanity. They all foster a connection between yourself and your creator, or yourself and the supreme being, and that connection fosters compassion in that direction, then fosters compassion outward to other people, so that all of the teachings serve humanity. And he feels it's good to have an awareness of other traditions, but it's also better and safer to follow your own traditions, because that's where you need to be right now. He says he uses caution when he teaches Buddhism in the West, and he says that when his Christian friends ask him about emptiness, he tells them this is not your business. Love, kindness, forgiveness, tolerance, and discipline, these are all the same in all faiths, and even though the philosophy is different. As a matter of fact, Nancy's 3Ds came up all the time in his speaking. So God created us to be a social animal, and he would tease. He said, so this time follow your own traditions, next time be Buddhist. So the teachings were based on these books. If you want to see them after service, you're more than welcome to look at them. Like I said, they're really academic. The language is you need a PhD sometimes to understand the language. And the book is considered the guidebook to Buddhism. It's used by all three Buddhist schools as kind of the way to smooth through the path for people of all levels of learning. And he said there are people who understand how to practice it or practice one or two things, but they don't understand the teachings. There's people who understand the teachings and they don't know how to practice it. And then there are some people that are able to put things into practice. And he does caution that you may think that you're advanced and you're on the latter stage of the path. But he says most people are in the beginning. They just think they're at the end. I tend to think that we move from one part of the path to the other. It's a spiral. at the beginning a lot. And as with the teachings, His Holiness said that there's no way to cram into 6 days everything in those books. And he said he started to learn that text when he was 16, and he's now 73, and he's still learning. So there's no way I can even put part of what was shared in 6 days into today's lesson. But everything he taught fell within the basic teachings of Buddhism. A lot of what he taught just assumed that you knew the basic precepts, the basic teachings of Buddhism. So I thought what I'd do today is share with you some of those basic teachings so that I can pull in what he shared with us. So all Buddhism is based on the Four Noble Truths. And by the way, I know that there are a bunch of you out there that know a whole lot more about Buddhism than I do. So I'm just going to share the basics. If some of you want to share more, I think people here would be really happy to hear it. And I got to tell you, since this isn't my path, although parts of it speak to me, there's a lot of stuff that I have to look up over and over and over again because it just doesn't want to stay. So Buddhism, the Buddhist teachings are based on the Four Noble Truths, and they're basically sets of cause and effect. And the first truth says that existence is characterized by suffering, and it doesn't bring satisfaction. And I have to admit, the first time I studied this in our theology class, it kind of bothered me because I know that I wasn't put here to suffer. That's not my job. I didn't come to this planet to suffer. I may choose to suffer, but that isn't my job. I didn't come here to do it. But if you think about suffering, I mean, sitting too long causes suffering, standing too long causes suffering, doing anything to excess causes suffering. So that's just the ordinary kind of suffering. And then change, you know, we don't like change. And then there's emotion that surrounds the change. So all of that causes suffering. The second noble truth says that it's our craving for sensual desires that causes suffering. Our craving for becoming, our craving for not becoming, they all bind us to a cyclic existence because we just keep wrapping ourselves around those cravings. And then the third noble truth is that suffering can end through elimination of craving. And the Dalai Lama he really made us laugh when he said this. He said, it's a good thing. He said, because if they told you that suffering didn't end, there would be no point in contemplating at all because it would just make you depressed. So the idea is to learn how to overcome the suffering. And then the fourth noble truth gives you the Eightfold Path. And that's the means to end the suffering. And the Eightfold Path then is broken down into 3 pieces, and there are 3 pieces that we always teach: wisdom, morality, and meditation. And wisdom is right view and right thought. And I read this example in another book that I thought was a good explanation of Dharma and right thought. Suppose 2 people are walking together and they see a duck and a chicken. And one of them says, why isn't that chicken like a duck? Why isn't the duck like a chicken? He wants the chicken to be a duck and the duck to be a chicken. And that's impossible. Although some of us would say, if I choose for the duck to be a chicken, then the duck is a chicken, and it doesn't really matter. Anyway, it's impossible. And if it's impossible, then even if the other person were to wish for the duck to be a chicken and the chicken to be a duck for the rest of his life, it wouldn't happen because the chicken is a chicken and the duck is a duck. So as long as the person would think like that and want the duck to be a chicken, he would be suffering. And the other person might see the chicken as a chicken and the duck as a duck, and that's all there is to it, so there's no problem. He sees rightly. So if you want the duck to be a chicken and the chicken to be a duck, you're really going to suffer. Got it? Okay. Is that painful? Morality is right speech, right action, and right livelihood. So the term bodhisattva means to generate the awakening mind. And the awakening mind is compassion for the suffering, for all sentient beings, all of those people who want the duck to be a chicken and the chicken to be a duck. And the root of that is compassion. So in order to hold others dear to you and cultivate a sense of compassion, you have to cultivate that. And then through the laws of cause and effect, you realize that everybody is related to you. Everybody shares the same fundamental search for happiness. So then you recognize the humanity in all people, and that their attitudes and their behavior are just that. They're their attitudes and behavior. It's not the person, because we all share the same basic goal for happiness. And it shows us how we're not separate from other people. It helps if, when you're frustrated and angry with someone else, if you think of that person as the image of God, it makes you calmer. And remember that not doing something because it's illegal isn't enlightenment. That doing it because it's not right view is enlightenment. And this is a good place to talk about karma. Karma is one of the primary causes that we're trying to understand of suffering. And that's the law of causality, the law of cause and effect. The Dalai Lama refers to Buddhism as the science of mind. And karma and its results are just, they arise from false thinking. And karma happens on a mental level. What you think, you create. So when you understand that your own mind is causing the conflicts, and you can step back, you can calm the conflicts. You stop creating the negative events that surround you. And your mind, the essential nature of mind, isn't polluted. You just can't seem to find your mind, the calmness and the clearness of your mind, because of all of the other stuff that you fill it up with. By its very nature, the mind can be separated from the trouble it causes. And remember that loving kindness and hatred are opposites. They can't exist in the same place at the same time. So if you're busy feeling compassion, you can't be busy feeling hate. And the Dalai Lama put it this way. He said, 6 billion people in the world get up in the morning and they don't think, I want trouble. None of them wake up looking for trouble. Yet there's plenty of trouble to be found everywhere. And that's all due to our emotions. And they're based on distorted thoughts. And we're all really familiar with the untamed parts of our mind, the parts that are undisciplined and go everywhere. So the idea is to tame your mind and calm it down through learning, understanding, and reflection. So through the next step on the path, we learn to examine our minds and train our minds to change our habits. And I suspect that this is a lot like, is this like the Sylvan Mind program that you guys learning to control your mind and control the way you think so that it's calm and disciplined and you don't have all that untamed stuff controlling you, that you're in control. So that leads us to the last step in the path, which is meditation, right effort, right mindfulness, and right contemplation. So what's the motivation for cultivating the mind? It's simply to understand the preciousness of human existence and how to make human existence meaningful. So many of us spend our meditation time trying to get out of the body and go elsewhere, that we forget how precious this body is, how important it is to have this body. And we did come here to be human, didn't we? So it's important to recognize the opportunity that you have as a human. Buddhists really value the fact that they can be human because they can overcome karma and things of the past and move forward towards enlightenment. So being human is important. And it's important not to waste the opportunity you have as a human. Death is certain, and its time is not. And if you think about it, you put meditation into practice all the time, and it's not all about relaxation, it's about awareness. You have an idea, you see something, You contemplate it. Sometimes you contemplate it and contemplate it and contemplate it and contemplate it. Eventually, based on the contemplation, you act on your idea. And it's the application of the other parts of the path that help you in making that idea. Now, the Dalai Lama talked about tranquil abiding and special insight, and these are the ways that we move our mind forward. Tranquil abiding is just that serenity. It's getting a single focus, and you quiet yourself. Your mind is usually obscured by reflections of the outer world and reflections of the inner world, what's going on